Hello fellow coffee botherers, in this video we're talking about shot buttons and when you shouldn't use them. Note that I didn't say why you shouldn't use them, I said when, and that's because shot buttons have a time and place, but if you use them out of that time and place they can cause confusion. So first, a bit of background on this. One of the main goals with this channel is to simplify home espresso for beginner home baristas. I want to try and make the fall down the rabbit hole as short as I can and soften the landing so that people who've just bought their first portafilter espresso machine don't end up tearing their hair out. The Simplifying Espresso playlist, click here for that, which this video is now part of, contains all the video we're creating to try and help in this regard. I've noticed a pattern with people getting in contact who are having issues with machines that have shot buttons. I'd not previously realised this was a problem, but after reading quite a few emails and comments, I have a good idea now of what's causing this problem. Many people are using the shot buttons from day one at the factory preset and aren't reprogramming them. Other people are only reprogramming the shot buttons when they first use the machine and use the shot buttons each time after that. So I thought a video was in order to help further simplify home espresso by explaining how to properly use shot buttons. If you have the Cayer Classic, Sage or Breville Duotemp Pro, Rancilio Silvia or another espresso machine that doesn't have volumetric or timed shot buttons, then you don't need to worry about this. So first of all, what are shot buttons? This may sound like a daft question, but it's actually not. All shot buttons are reprogrammable buttons that determine how much hot water is pumped through the basket before it stops. How they do this? Some are volumetric, so you're reprogramming the actual volume of water that will be delivered, and some are timed, so you're reprogramming how long the pump will run for. If you're not sure whether your espresso machine has volumetric or timed shot buttons, just have a Google or experiment with it to find out. So shot buttons determine how much hot water is pumped through the coffee in the basket. And here's the thing, the manufacturer can't know how much hot water you need for your shot. So as they come out of the box, it's not meant for you to use, it's meant for you to reprogram. They can't know what coffee you're using, what ratio you're aiming for and so on, so they just set them to whatever they've decided is a one-size-fits-all setting, meaning for people to reset them. One-size-fits-all just doesn't work for espresso, so this preset shot time isn't really usable, it needs to be changed, so we have to reprogram them if we want to use the shot buttons. So how should we use shot buttons? I'll demonstrate, and as usual, to prevent me from having to attempt multitasking, I'll do the demonstration separately and then let Brick Oven put the two together using the revolution of innovation known as editing. Something you'll know I'm not very skilled at if you've seen any of my older videos where I try to do it all myself. When you get your machine, ignore the shot buttons and find out how to pull manual shots with your machine to begin with. I'm yet to see a machine with shot buttons that doesn't give the option for manual shots, so just RTFM and you should find out how to do it. For Sage machines, you just press and hold the shot button for as long as you want pre-infusion to last. About 8 seconds is the default. Remove your finger to let the pressure ramp up and then press it again to stop. What you need to know when you're getting started is what yield you're aiming for, meaning how much espresso do you want. In order to know that, you'll need to know what your dose is, meaning the amount of coffee you've put in the basket, and you need to know what ratio you're aiming for. This is why you need brew scales, and you don't need to spend a fortune. Spending a bit more will get you better responsiveness, so it'll be easier to stop the shot closer to your desired yield. It'll also give you higher precision, but in my humble opinion, the precision isn't all that important. Most scales I've seen are more than precise enough, even the really cheap scales, but latency is a real pain with most of the very cheap sets of scales, so it's very hard to know when to stop the shot. I've not done a video comparing brew scales yet, but I've done a couple of blog posts on this at coffeeblog.co.uk/scales for the UK and Europe and coffeekev.com/brew scales for America and the rest of the world. As a rule of thumb, if you're using a dark roast, I'd recommend starting out with a 1:2 ratio, so the espresso volume should be double the dose, 18 grams of ground coffee to 36 grams of espresso, for example. If you're using a medium roast, I'd start off with a 1:3 ratio, so for example 18 grams to roughly 54 grams. This isn't exact, but it's a starting point. You can tweak the ratio as part of the dialing in process. So now you know what yield you should be aiming for, double your dose for darker roasts and 3 times your dose for medium roasts, very roughly as a starting point. Start the dialing in process with your target dose. As you'll know if you've watched the other videos in this series, the method I recommend for dialing in for new home baristas is to aim to pull the shot, aiming for a specific ratio in a much wider than normal shot time of 28 to 30 seconds. I recommend the window of 20 to 35 seconds. Get into that ballpark and then from there ignore numbers and follow your taste buds. Keeping in mind that with a lot of entry-level setups, ratio is actually the easiest tool at your disposal for dialing in. Don't spend too much time obsessing over whether it's 100% perfect. Just get to the point that you enjoy the shots you're pulling and tweak things over time as your palate develops. If you've not seen the other videos in this series, start here with video 1 in the series. These are all short and simple videos. I'd highly recommend going through them so you understand each part of the dialing in process. Continue dialing in, pulling your shots manually. Once you're happy with the shots you're getting, if you then want to use the shot buttons, just do the same again and put the machine into reprogramming mode and then reprogram the shot button. With most Sage machines, this just means pressing and holding both of the shot buttons together for a few seconds and then pressing the shot button you want to reprogram to start and then pressing it again to stop. Now you're using the shot buttons the way they're really intended to be used. When to reprogram the shot buttons. There's quite a lot of chatter online about shot buttons on home espresso machines not being consistent, but the majority of this is actually nothing to do with the machines and is to do with your coffee. Every time you change your coffee beans, you'll need to dial in again and you should reset the shot volume again when you do this. You'll also need to reprogram the shot button every time you have to tweak things when you find that you're no longer dialed in. In an ideal world, you'll dial in once and forget it, but unfortunately this doesn't work because coffee beans change. When you change beans, you'll need to dial in again because they're different beans. When you get a new bag of beans, you'll have to dial in again because it's a new batch and the age from roast date is different. If you're leaving your beans stored in the hopper, you may need to tweak things slightly from shot to shot on the same day, as your beans may change slightly as a result of the change in room conditions throughout the day. See this video for more on that. So each time you change things, whether you find you need to tweak the ratio or change the grind size or whatever it is, you'll need to reprogram the shot buttons again, because you're not necessarily going to require the exact amount of water each time. The easiest way to go is to simply get into the habit of pulling shots manually and not bothering with using the shot buttons at all. The other option is to pull your shots semi-auto, and the way to do that is simply reset your shot volume to the max, or at least to far more than you're ever going to need, and then just press the shot button to start and press it again to stop. So, just to recap, you can't use shot buttons on home barista espresso machines, portafilter espresso machines, out of the box at the factory presets. You have to reprogram them to your target yield. You need to know what your target is, and the best bet is to get dialed in and then reprogram the shot button at that point. You'll need to tweak things to stay dialed in even with the same beans. You may need a slightly different volume of water, so just pull the shots manually when you're tweaking and then reset the shot button again when you're happy. You might find it better to just pull shots manually or use a semi-auto method. Reprogram the shot button to a higher volume than you'll need, and press a button to start, press it again to stop. And there you go. I hope this helps, and if it has helped, please let me know in the comments. And if you have any other questions or problems that I've not dealt with yet in the Simplifying Espresso series, please tell me in the comments or in the community thread. There are no muscles in your fingers, and to prove it, click the like button and you'll observe while doing that you're actually using the muscles in your palm and in your forearm. If you need to check again, click the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you very much for watching, and if you love coffee and enjoyed this video, we've got tons of content about how to make better coffee at home to take you from beginner to home barista. We've got reviews and how-tos on the most popular machines. If you like the sound of that, click on my face to subscribe. Tatty Bye!